and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is me, Dukect. It doesn't matter what the internet tries to do or anyone tries to shut us down. We are still doing the Dukect Lounge. Well, here we are. I have two guests here, two very awesome guests. One who is recording this after everything that completely crapped out. And I want to thank you once again. A man who does Rowdy Live, who also does TV Trash, Chris Moore, a.k.a. Rowdy C.
Yo, and hello, my Rowdy friends. Always glad to be able to chip in even as an emergency producer on the show when apparently Verizon decides that they just don't want to work tonight. I am willing to work in that department.
And the next guest here is one of the most interesting and awesome comic book reviewers, but also loves pro wrestling, Rowdy, a.k.a. Jeff Burnett. What's up?
Howdy, everybody. How's it going?
Well, let's talk about a bit of Wrestlemania. The road to Wrestlemania has long, perilous bumps and things that you just wonder and scratch your head and how this get here. Now, of course, there's a lot of issues that going into this main event. What question is a main event? It used to be an easy thing because it looked like for the longest time it's going to be the first ever women's main event. It was going to be Becky Lynch. It's going to be Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Ronda Rousey fighting for the Raw Women's title. It was simple. It was there. It was done. Bam! There it was. But recently, there's been a bit of a storyline that has been people who've been in the wrestling community has been shocked, and they're like pushing to this road. They're pushing this because they like the story so far. Kofi Kingston challenging Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. And something that people have been waiting to see for many years, including myself included, seeing Kofi Kingston, the workhorse of WWE, the person who has won every single minor championship, Intercontinental Championship, multi-time tag team championship, multi-time United States champion, and one of the most interesting and insane Royal Rumble participants. He is now being poised to get a championship that only records show about 40 to 50 people, 49, over 50 people has held, and it's like, and people are like, wow, they want to see this main event. They are so compelled of that underdog story. And also there's some that say, hey, wait a minute, what about Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins? They've been building up and saying who is going to slay the beast? Who is going to finally take down the beast and have the Raw Universal Championship, the championship that has been so missing in action that no one seems to forget that title even exists, and have Seth Rollins finally climb up to that mountaintop and do the impossible and slay the beast. Some say you can't put that anywhere in the mid card. That should be on the top ending show, the main event. And well, some will have that. These are 2-3 main event people that honestly, it would be pretty good times to end the show. And I want to ask this question because now, since the whole, storyline that has been, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey has been not going so well, I want to ask this question to you two, since y'all have very different opinions about who is going to main event WrestleMania. I wanted to ask this question before Verizon said screw off and basically destroyed the only reason and pretty much made Skype even more unworkable. I wanted to ask is that where do y'all see this? What is the way? What would you do to pick the main events? Do you go all in? Are you all still in with Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey? Or are you looking, saying the way the storyline's been heading up, like maybe there's something different needs to be put in there?
Well, I said that before we had to change up everything here on the show, but to me, it ultimately all comes down to who's getting booked to win which title. Like I said, especially if they've got it set up for Becky or even Charlotte to win the Raw Women's title from Rousey, and the setup that Kofi Kingston might not win the WWE title at WrestleMania, which is a possibility just from what I've heard from some sources, and I always try to take these online rumors with a grain of salt. In fact, I probably shouldn't even read them at all, because almost 90% of them are bullcrap. But some people have been suggesting that WWE does have some long-term plans with Daniel Bryan as WWE Champion. So it's very possible that Kofi might not come out on top in this match. He may still, only to drop it back to Bryan in another couple of months or so, we never know. But if this was the case, that if the plan is to have Daniel Bryan retain at WrestleMania, and then you're going to have either Charlotte or Becky Lynch win against Rousey, which clearly the odds-on favorite, whether I like it or not, is Becky Lynch. If that's the situation, I think you may have to go with the women main eventing and ending WrestleMania, which would be a very nice thing to see. I mean, don't get me wrong on that. My only concern is that if they're the last match on, that to me would be a dead giveaway almost that you are going to see Becky Lynch come out on top in this match.
Well, and as I was saying before, all the
difficulties.
The technical difficulties and all the bullshit happened. Basically speaking, I'd say it would just come down to how the match is executed and how the story is told in the ring, with how it shows either Becky or Charlotte toppling Ronda, probably like one helping out the other for a little bit, some sort of double teaming, in the middle of the match or whatever. But it really all comes down to execution now. As far as Brock and Seth Rollins is concerned, I don't think there's really much you can do in terms of building it, other than what they've done already. With Seth saying, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll sell my soul to the devil or whatever. And then you got Paul Heyman doing, version number 3237 of Brock's gonna suplex the fuck out of you. But really, there's not much more build you can do with it, since Brock hardly ever shows his ass up.
Yeah, and like I said, and I also said earlier, if as if they didn't need anything else to kind of take away from Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar, now you've got the whole extra detail of Roman Reigns coming back from his fight with leukemia, and that's an almost that almost suggests the idea that the best thing WWE could do now is, whether or not Brock or Seth win at WrestleMania, you've almost got to do a situation where they put both those guys in a triple threat a month later and put the belt over on Roman, who of course never lost that title anyway to begin with. It's kind of that more than anything is pushed, like I said, between Roman's return, all of the hype building up to Becky versus Charlotte versus Ronda, and the this new desire that Kofi Kingston is going to be in a title match at WrestleMania. It's just buried the Universal title more and more and more, and it really makes you wonder if all these rumors about that Universal Championship being cursed are actually true.
Well, yeah, it is something. When you look at, someone say Roman Reigns should be main event. I'm like, I don't know how long he's 100% yet. I worry he shouldn't even be wrestling singles matches at WrestleMania. Personally, I don't want him to be, even though they're leading up to having him probably face Drew McIntyre. But I don't think he should be wrestling. He faces, this is the second time he kicked leukemia's ass. He did. It was the second time. They called it early, and I'm like, is he going to be 100? Is he going to be that pillar for WWE? Because he was set up to be that main event guy. And regardless if you liked him or didn't, he was set up to be that way. Mm-hmm. But it does when your health, health is, he might not be that dependable person at this point. You worry about, cancer. It might come back. In fact, he's actually talking about off periods right now. He's actually thinking of, he's actually saying maybe they should have something, most people have been talking about, like an off season and such. If you don't want to go to that conversation, but yeah, I would not put Roman Reigns in. If he's healthy, I put him like in a quick match, but I'm not going to put Roman Reigns in that championship match yet, because is he going to be there in every show? Is he going to be like Brock Lesnar? So you have to say, okay, is he going to be okay? Is he ready to go 100%, the tireless road work of being an AEW superstar and such?
I think it would be unfair. Yeah, I think it would be unfair to kind of compare that to Lesnar, because I think in Roman's case, he would be physically unable to appear every night on Raw and on pay-per-views, not to mention possible house shows. In Brock's case, it's just because he doesn't want to. So that's kind of a comparison. But although I do get where you're coming from, is that you put the belt back on Roman, and no matter what the reason, you still got the same situation where you can't have the champion on every night. So there may be some concern about that, for sure. Maybe they do need to ease him back in, and maybe we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves there.
I would definitely say that, talking about Roman Reigns and title shots is, what is putting the cart way before the horse. Honestly, I think he's going to have his hands full with possibly Drew at WrestleMania, which, I think those two would have a good match, and it would probably be a decent gauge of testing where Roman is physically at this point. Now, as far as Kofi and his storylines going on, it does kind of remind me of how they played Daniel Bryan, actually, about 5 years ago.
It's a dark mirror and such.
It is. No, it is. And also, it seems like they're also kind of hitting fast forward on it too. It's kind of like a truncated version of that, but it still works because we're behind Kofi. We know he's been working for like 11 years in the same company, and he's never quite reached the top. And he's a fantastic athlete. He's got the New Day behind him. He's got his fans behind him, and it is kind of a dark mirror to Daniel Bryan's journey. And I'm surprised that they haven't brought that up yet.
I think they will. And it's funny. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
But it's funny. It's funny how this was, set up because of Mufasa Ali got hurt. Mm-hmm. If you remember, he was originally going to be in the Elimination Chamber, but they had to rush this thing out. They rushed it because, again, he had a gauntlet match, which to me was a lot better than Seth Rollins' gauntlet match. Yeah. Because it actually had meant him in worth and value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of felt bad for Mustafa Ali at Fastlane. Just the constant Kofi chants, and here he is in a triple threat title match, and all they can chant is Kofi, 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 and I'm like, I feel bad. I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, because it was basically, when you look at it, it was still kind of a logical perspective that, Mustafa was getting the title opportunity he was denied because of injury at Elimination Chamber. So in that sense, it still made some type of logic for him to have gotten in there, and everyone knew that Kofi was going to be here at WrestleMania anyway. But just main things. Obviously, it may seem a bit truncated, but that's just because I don't think anyone saw this coming for quite a while. Like, this is just really got thrown in there to a surprise that suddenly. Wait, we could throw. Everyone seems to like this idea of this one guy being in there. Obviously, this wasn't planned months in advance, and this is about as hotshot booking, no matter whether you like that term or not, as you can possibly get. But yeah, it seems to be working for the most part.
Because again, Kofi has that connection. He has a connection to this audience, and they've been waiting to see Kofi for this whole journey. Where he's been there for over a decade. He has rarely any championship opportunities, and he felt like, man, this dude just is so. You're like, man, just give him that one championship run, just that, because the man has put in so much work. And to me, I look at this and I'm so happy They didn't do a breakup with the New Day. They didn't do all this type of stuff, which is so typical. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it's
That
like,
more than
you know what?
anything, that more than anything is why it is what's getting me behind this angle, in the fact that you didn't do a major breakup of a very charismatic and popular tag team, and the part of this whole storyline is the fact that Xavier Woods and Big E are 100% behind Kofi up to this point in wanting him to be that champion. Is that they both sometimes when you look at a group like that, it's kind of difficult to determine who is the number one guy on there, which is kind of the issue that led to the breakup of the Shield all this time. That even though Seth was the founder, but Roman was clearly the biggest guy, and then you had Dean Ambrose in there, but there seems to be a legit in storyline. They've created this legit angle where both Xavier and Big E are completely behind, saying Kofi is the guy that more than anything deserves a shot at the WWE Championship, and we're gonna be behind him all the way in this endeavor.
And it's, to me, I love, why I love that is because I think WWE's finally getting that what are people liking so much about in the media and such. They like superheroes coming together. They don't like these big mega heel groups keeping together and such like that. I mean, we like seeing, all this other stuff like, super villains and such like that, Legion or whatever. But people want to see good stuff like, Avengers. I mean, heck, you just saw the official trailer saying that they are all coming together. These ragtag heroes are coming together to stop this madman or try to reverse this type of thing. That to me, shows that if they are coming together to stop. And besides, you never know what other people are going behind. Daniel Bryan. You have Harper there, so you can have Harper, and you can have Biggie and not Biggie and Xavier come in and try to just make sure Rowan doesn't get involved or something like that. They take him out, and then you have that big moment. That's, to me, is like, man, I like the fact that they do have that connection to the connection to people. Like, yes, the good guys finally prevailing. It's good to see a hero prevail without sacrificing, like, being this evil person. What they did with Johnny Gargano in NXT, which just dragged it so long that they're trying so hard to recomp everything because, look, Johnny Gargano beats up Ciampa, even though it's way past due, and Ciampa pretty much is his neck injury and such. And I'm like, this stuff should have been taken care of a long period of time. You don't need to overthink this up. You don't need to overthink these things. But
you do bring this up. Like, that's where I will say this. It is good that they more or less found a way to present this storyline where you have a group of babyface team uniting together towards pushing one. This one group is united in giving one guy's opportunity. It is kind of a good contrast to, conversely, what's been building up with the women on Raw. It's just Raw and SmackDown, because the other two have been on SmackDown for so long and so much. And just the fact that in that storyline, the desire for the WWE title is what broke up Charlotte and Becky, which is something I want to see end as soon as possible. Some guy on Twitter, just before we went on, was talking about how this is the time more than any way to reunify T Generation X, and I am, yes, please! I'm tired. That's what gets me more than anything else about this whole, about Becky turning and everything, is I look at her and Charlotte always trying to beat the hell out of each other, and I want to think, that's not what's supposed to happen. These two are supposed to be kicking other women's asses all over the ring together. Like, I want to see them going up against the Iconics or the Riot Squad together and whatnot. Believe me, I've got a whole storyline in my head about what needs to be done the rest of this year to try to bring those two back. And that's just, it's, after having to watch the last 6 months of seeing probably two of my favorite wrestlers who I think should be friends and a team together, just going after each other. It is such a great breath of fresh air to see. On the flip side, you have this group, even though one of them wants to be WWE champion, they are still united. And his friends are saying, you want to be WWE champion? We're behind you on this. That is, yes, a very refreshing thing to look at, I have to say.
Yeah, it's
definitely unique.
Yeah, it is. And when you look at what I just me is that you see what's happening with Becky is that the cheers are getting lower and lower because I think people are just tired of just this whole, trying so hard to be Conor McGregor, which I think we talked about this before. It's just this Conor McGregor type attitude, Rowdy. We said this stuff before. It's just this Conor McGregor attitude. It's like we could do this. I'm like, no, just stop doing that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to be you don't need to do all this stuff. And now it's just basically, you didn't even know it's not even on Becky's fault. Most of the storyline is Becky Lynch still more often not carrying that crutch over everything. That's attacking the Stephanie and Triple H for pretty much no reason, for basically making Stephanie trying so hard to make them like, wait, you're attacking Stephanie for making sure that your leg is not injured. I'm like, right. Making sure you're okay to go to WrestleMania. I'm like, okay, why is Stephanie the villain here? Because
honestly, they have completely botched the build for. They've pretty much completely botched the build for this. Mainly, and this goes all the way back to this goes all the way back to having Becky do the fake injury and everything like that at Royal Rumble, and I'm just thinking okay, we'll see where this goes. And then Vince bringing in Charlotte and essentially, kicking Becky out and forcing Charlotte into the match. And I'm thinking this could have been just a triple threat match from the get-go, because Charlotte has a legitimate gripe about being officially in the Royal Rumble match and saying that she should be the winner, considering that Becky stole Lana's spot. Now they let Becky in because Lana couldn't compete. So it's one of those things where both of them have a legitimate claim. So make it a triple threat match. Boom, done. You don't have to do the whole arrest storyline. You don't have to do the whole Ronda dropping, laying the belt on the ring storyline. You don't have to have Becky coming in and whipping everybody's ass with a crutch thing. You don't have to do the suspension bullshit. You don't have to do any of that.
I will say this. They probably might not have done that if it wasn't for the existence of Fastlane to begin with. This is what I had been saying earlier for weeks around. You probably could have had a better straight-up build-up to this if you didn't have to sell one more pay-per-view between the Rumble and WrestleMania. I think what they looked at is just, we've got to have a build-up to sell a match there at this Fastlane pay-per-view, and they just had to try to put something together that still tried to make Becky Lynch look somewhat sympathetic, although I don't think it worked in any way, shape, or form. And it's just why I said, if it would have been, this is why I think it would have been better if when they only had one pay-per-view in between the Rumble and Mania, having two just forces them to complicate things, unfortunately, too much as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the thing you do with Fastlane is you make it a contract signing. That's it. You don't have to have a match.
Or personally, I could do better than the triple threat. I suggested this in the past Dukect Lounge, and I said this in. I'll keep saying this. Why not put Asuka there for a fatal four-way and have both SmackDown and the Raw Women's Championships up for grabs? Because, hey, Asuka basically submitted Becky in the middle of the ring at the Royal Rumble. We saw this. And now she's basically flying around doing absolutely nothing. That hurts this storyline as well. Becky can't really say she's the man, and then you have Asuka sitting there in the back and saying, no, she's not. I beat her. In the first match, I'm like, that's there.
That's not a bad idea, I'm going to say that much, just from the other fact that I personally would also have no problem with unifying those two belts, just because in my own mind, and maybe they're not planning on doing this at all, that would continue on into once you have just one women's single championship and one set of women's tag team championships. That's what you need more than anything else to then give the women their own show. Like, I have been saying this for some time, that they should devote the 8 o'clock Eastern time hour on Monday nights to just doing a women's special, their own show, and then start Raw officially at 9 p.m. Eastern. And that's what so you still get your 3 hours of live wrestling, but you have one show where the women get their own opportunity to shine, and then you can be more compact with the storylines on Raw, which even like I said, everyone in creative, most of them have been saying, a 3-hour Raw show has been a beatdown for them for years, and that might help simplify things a lot more. And just having one women's champion and one women's tag team champions would be the best one step toward getting that.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. But the problem is, with all this insanity and such, is that you do have this whole thing. You try to do all this stuff for Raw, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But right there, at least that whole Asuka beating Becky Lynch, that thing really does hurt it, because if you have, when's the last time Becky Lynch looked as clearly dominant?
That's what I've been saying for the longest time. That's the biggest one of the big problems I have with this idea that so many people are claiming she's supposed to have always been the babyface in this entire angle that's gone back not just to SmackDown, but even before that. Almost all of Becky Lynch's losses, especially in title matches, have either been clean or in matches where it was anything goes anyway, such as when she lost the cage match to Alexa Bliss years ago, in which Mickie James came in out of nowhere to fix that, and then there was the triple threat ladder match where she lost it to Asuka because of Rousey's interference. Throughout this entire storyline, as a character, Becky Lynch really hasn't been screwed over that much, but there's just so many people among the online fan community that have programmed it into their own minds that behind the scenes Becky's been overlooked and screwed out of supposedly title opportunities. They're trying to force feed that into the storyline when nothing's actually happened in the storyline for it to make sense.
Yeah. But that's the thing right there is, it is the frustrating part of the whole thing about Becky Lynch, is that Becky had the moments and such, but she never really grasped on. Never really grasped the opportunity to make that title. And what she did last year. She did beat Charlotte multiple times, but when she faced, again, like Asuka, in that same situation, guess what happened? Right. She took an L. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't really. I mean, it just seems that Becky people are just looking past that, and these are the same people who are just like, oh, wins or losses doesn't matter. And if that's the case, Asuka should be part of this conversation, because she keeps winning and she's being forgotten, while Becky Lynch hasn't done anything special other than win by disqualification by Ronda just punching her in the stomach, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. I will admit, this Asuka's kind of gotten cast aside in this whole thing, and it's almost, this is what gets me more than anything. What really makes me worry is, recently, everyone's talked about how the wrestling and the storylines on Raw have been the lesser part of WWE as a whole. And of course, they're all tying that back to Road Dogg now being the head writer in there. That's might be a subject for another time. But when you look at it, at least with Raw and their championships, there's a clear setup as to where they were going with the titles building up to WrestleMania. With the titles on SmackDown, it's like they've got no idea who was going to face Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship before they started to notice how well Kofi Kingston had caught on. And we still don't really know that who's going to possibly be facing Asuka, to the point where everyone's automatically assuming that Lacey Evans is going to come in out of nowhere. That may or may not be true, but just the fact that they can make that suggestion shows that there doesn't seem to be any type of indication as to where exactly they're going with the championships on SmackDown. At least Raw seems to have had a set direction that they've been going in for some time.
Yeah. It's this whole, the way the WWE has been set this stuff up. It's just they overcomplicate these stories. I think that's the problem. The fans want this overcomplication. And now when they have this overcomplication, it just, it blows back in people's faces. And yeah, it's a frustrating, it's a frustrating thing. It's frustrating and sad that, people could be just went easier to sit there and say, oh, well, we could easily just do this and put this in a better situation. And that sort of stuff. It's the frustrating situation that, that the writing staff and everything else is just, they just put themselves in this horrible situation that now everyone's now not only not over, people are just annoyed. They just want to get it over with. That's why I talked about it. It's just like they just want the storyline over with.
I want to bring this up, since we're getting on to SmackDown, and this might be it might be a sensitive situation, but it's definitely something I want to ask about. And we apologize if you're wondering why it's just the two of us now. Jeff kind of had to duck out because of some computer issues. He's trying to restart, and hopefully we can get him back on as soon as possible. But because I definitely want to hear from him on this as well. And I don't mean to overtake your show or anything, Duke. So I apologize.
No problem. That's all right. That's okay, man.
But I do wanted to ask, just obviously with the storyline involving Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan, there also has been this hint of Vince McMahon trying to interfere. And yes, apparently there's some hints of racial issues as being the reason why, in character-wise, doing it. Some friends of ours, also in the wrestling business, they're not too happy with this. And just mainly they're pointing it back to it's happening because of racial prejudices that Vince McMahon himself might have. But my question for you exactly is, what kind of sense would it make that to prove a guy is being a racist if he's supposedly trying to deny someone, he's trying to set himself up as being a bad guy in a storyline because he's a racist? If you kind of understand what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really worried that this is going to mirror the same situation that Booker T and Triple H storyline happened. That
that's fair enough.
That way back, and I was a fan of Triple H at the time, fan of Booker T. I watched that match and I was really disappointed. I just stopped watching Raw and I just could not really. They tried to basically give him the Intercontinental. And by the way, the reason why he lost because the rumor had it, I think he wanted to retire. Booker T wanted to retire, but he decided not to. But they said, okay, we'll give you the Intercontinental Championship or something like that, which is trying to do a make good. But it's it was like you had the thing there. Don't set it up though. That was the problem with the storyline there. It was just proved that the racist was right. And quite honestly, that should not be the case here as well.
That should be fair enough. My only concern is that...
I hope they didn't do... Because if they do that, it's just, again, it will leave a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. And it's a shame, because... but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my only concern is that... Maybe this is just my own limitations, but I keep looking at... obviously, the number one storyline about Kofi is this is a guy who's trying to become champion for the first time in his 15-year career, whatever it might be. And I guess I was having a problem seeing Daniel Bryan being a good antagonist in that type of situation. Like, what is it about Daniel Bryan's personality gimmick right now, where he's really been this ultra liberal, hippie environmentalist type person? Whether or not you think that makes him a heel or not is kind of irrelevant at that point. That's your decision. That's your mindset, one way or the other. But how do you make that guy into a good antagonist for someone like Kofi Kingston? And that may be why maybe someone thinks that, well, we gotta add another factor into this thing. But maybe, unless you can find another way that you could make that angle work.
Yeah. You have to make the angle work, and the best way to make the angle work is to just show what does Daniel Bryan, he's talking about conserving, being this like ultra leftist hipster type of negative type of energy and such. And that's the thing, he just feels that way. And the reason why he is because he truly wants to save the planet. He sees that stuff. He sees Kofi Kingston, someone who loves life, someone who does this stuff, as a negative. He sees it as how dare you try to placate these people? You have to be angry and bitter and become this and yell at them. And he sees them being like New Day, part of New Day, being fun and this and that. He's like, you just say, I used to be that way, but that didn't get me anywhere. All it did was basically delay my greatness. It delayed it. And then you can just say, I am the real true form of Daniel Bryan, the planet savior, the WWE champion. I am saving the world while you will just throw pancakes and with pancakes and with your pigtails, you will not come even close to me or something like that. Say something like that.
And say, I suppose.
And that sort of thing. And then you have to prove him wrong. And I mean, Kofi will, I think, hopefully wins. If Kofi wins the WWE title, I don't know what you do. I think probably you have Daniel Bryan. They are looking to go back to Saudi Arabia. So I think he's going to hold the title for a while and then probably lose it to Daniel Bryan the next couple pay-per-views or someone else. I don't know who's going to be that person, because at least it'd be something different, because it's been AJ Styles holding the belt for so long that it's just, I don't want to see the title of AJ Styles for at least if he wants to do it, maybe another year or so. But I'm going to stop right here or something, because it's funny to me. It's hilarious that we're talking about these storylines. We're talking about all this stuff. What worst storylines, how, the Raw Women's title, that stuff. Randy Orton and AJ Styles, they pretty much had little to no interactions until Fastlane pay-per-view. And they had a pretty good promo on SmackDown going after their past histories and such. And I'm more hyped than that than most of the matches at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I am more hyped, more into and intrigued. And you know why that is? Because, once again, you had the story. It's like the less is more. And I think, I believe Writrzblok's back. I think you agree that AJ and Randy Orton's storyline is probably a lot better than the women's storyline for the Raw title. Do you agree with that?
What, the AJ Randy Orton storyline?
Yeah, for WrestleMania.
I don't know if I would agree with that. I would say the promo that he and Orton did last week on this past SmackDown was really, really good. I would probably say it's better than than any sort of build up for the SmackDown Women's title. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's basically non-existent.
What we were talking about just a bit is how, Asuka kind of got thrown in, really just getting kind of buried by all the hype of the other women's matches, and probably the best thing out there may be to have, if they could have found a way to put her in here in a triple threat to unify the titles, which then could have not only put her in something, give her the chance to say that she has the right to be just as much the man when she beat the man, Becky Lynch, at the Royal Rumble. And then regardless of who wins, once you have one women's title to go with one women's tag team titles, now you've got the ability to eventually give the women their own show that could probably open for Raw on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, like I was saying before.
If they were gonna do that, they would have already set that up.
Yes, I am true about that. I will say more than anything else in all of this, just one of the things that's just really making me laugh through all of the build-up in WrestleMania, all of these matches, is just how many people online are eating up and falling for what some of these people these wrestlers are doing on social media, and how they're pushing their own characters. Like, it just makes, yes, they're trying to suggest that Vince McMahon, because of his own racial biases, is trying to hold Kofi Kingston down. And it just Vince knows what people think of him, and he's feeding out into storylines to get a crowd reaction, and people are falling for it. Ronda Rousey knows what the internet thinks of her. She's been playing that up on Twitter, and people are falling for it. And these are from the people who says they're the knowledgeable wrestling fans.
I sit and laugh because, once again, people are just like you said. I'm like, dude, man, they're playing you. And again, if you don't like the way it is, because I'm going to say this, though. I'm pretty sick of the shooting and all that type of stuff. Personally, I'm sick of that storyline because, again, you don't see that in you don't see that stuff like, okay, Flash TV show saying they want to take down the villain, they tell the villain's real name in the show or something like that and try to do real stuff. Like, no, they talk the stuff in the show, and that the way it works. Even Deadpool doesn't work this way. It gets tiresome and frustrating that we have this same type of dialogue and over and over again.
Meta humor is very difficult to work. You gotta know how to do it correctly. Garfield knew how to do it in the 90s. Deadpool will do it. Some of these wrestlers aren't the best at doing it, and yet people are still eating up what they're doing.
Oh yeah, again, because they want to have
they want to think they're part. They want to think that they're part of the show. They want to think that they're smarter than and you can say that just about any sort of fandom. It's like there's certain subsections of fans who want to think that they're smarter than the people who are putting on the show, and they want to be the ones to aha, I gotcha, aha, I gotcha, I knew you were gonna do, but and it's not about, and the thing is it's not about the story for them. It's not about the theatricality of it for them. It's about being right. Honestly, you can piss off with that.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if reality theatricality is actually a word, but whatever. Yeah, sorry.
All right. Oh, good news! My internet seems to be back online. Oh no, it's not.
Oh well.
Wait a minute. Is it? Yep, it looks like it. Yes, it's back online. Huzzah! But anyway,
it's like Will Ferrell and Austin Powers. Like, okay, I'm going to try and stand on my leg. It is broken. My leg is indeed broken.
Yes, but no, I'll say this: at least it's not Comcast, because that means the internet will never would have got back on again. But anyway, people. Well, I would say this, and you're in the last bit of this lovely conversation and such, which we had, even though this insane conversation and all the stuff that's going on here. Do you think, though, we talk about all the stuff about this? We haven't really talked about Lesnar. I mean, we talked Lesnar and stuff. Would you be upset if they did pull and then Lesnar and Seth main event? Because again, if it is gonna have Becky and then you have Kofi, if they all three win, which would be the most gratifying place to do it? What would be okay, they got this. This would be a good place to put them, because if it's all winning and it's all positive, would that deflate would you have to have a negative ending in one of those matches? Or would you say, screw it, let all the heroes win? And would you?
Well, I mean, my only thing is that the only way I would have, like I said, the only way I would have Lesnar retain is if you plan on putting the belt on Roman very soon, which may or may not be the case. Kofi, I would definitely want to have him win, even if it's just for having him hold the belt for a couple of months. But you know me, I personally would want Charlotte to win this match. If anything, just from a storyline perspective, it would say everyone had been solely focusing on Becky versus Ronda, and then Charlotte just swoops in and say, "Ha! You all forgot about me. I'm still like a 7-time women's champion, and you guys all underestimated me, and I'm the one who came out on top." And that still could be what could move you forward into as I said, I'm not a WWE writer. No one's listening to my stuff anyway, but if there was something that could bring back a Becky Charlotte reunification, at least you could still move on into that with some of the ideas I've got. But that's just me.
Well, yeah, me. Well, first, in that statement, you forgot to add in "woo!"
Right.
And
exactly.
two, and two, the Salt Online. The Salt Online would be so immense that, quite honestly, I think I would not actually see. I don't know what it would be so immense that I would never have to, need salt for my popcorn or anything else again, because I'll just need to open Twitter and just that this stuff would still be pissing off about that, because
there'd be so much salt online, I'd have to go back to the hospital.
Oh, we weren't going there. He went there himself, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you bring that up. Seriously, Jeff, I am glad to know that you're feeling better, at least as far as that.
Yes, and you know what? I say personally, I think WrestleMania needs a good, happy ending. I say all the good guys and gals win, and that includes Becky Lynch, even though I think it will she'll probably turn into, personally, I would wish, her first defense should be, I don't know, let's say Ember Moon when she gets back, which would be awesome, because, hey, Ember Moon takes and beats down, say, Ronda. Hell, that'd be nice. Ronda comes in bitching and such, and then have Ember Moon come in, beat her clean, and then sets up Ember Moon versus Becky Lynch, and she wins the title from her like 2 or 3 months later. But that's just my personal. But yeah.
Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think that if you're going to have all of the baby faces win their matches, they all have to be like extreme uphill battles. I mean, They have to be like, you have to really convince me that there's a chance that they're not going to win. But if you're going to have like one of them, one of the villains retain, it would probably be it should probably be Lesnar, because honestly, Seth winning the title from Lesnar probably won't have as much of a cathartic impact as, say, Kofi or either Becky or Charlotte winning their respective matches. Mainly because Lesnar's had the belt for so long, people just flat out don't care anymore. They'll probably be a little bit happy about Lesnar not having the belt anymore, for the time being. But it won't be quite as jubilant as they were when Roman beat him for it.
Or say maybe a Braun Strowman once upon a time.
Oh, they're not going to put the belt on Strowman. At least not from Brock.
That's a shame.
But I think Braun's that type that he doesn't need a belt to draw. I think he's one of those types that he's going to be a huge presence, regardless of having a belt or not. And I think maybe some people see that he's going to be there regardless. That people are going to just love watching him destroy things.
Yeah.
But he does, I think, eventually will win the title, and it will be awesome and such. But yeah, I think in a good way, I think WWE needs to do something to shock the audience, and that to be the most shocking is let them work for it. What Don Bluth said. I want them to be like, oh gosh, they might have no chance, but they outsmart and overcome, and it's like, holy crap, it happens. And maybe the main event will not be a good place for, say, for Kofi and Daniel Bryan, because, hey, why not put that in the first part of the show to set the tone and have a great moment and a great memorable moment and such. Kind of like how Edge beat Alberto Del Rio, WrestleMania and such. Way, back in 2011, the WrestleMania I went to, and seeing Edge's last championship match, which was amazing. But yeah,
you gotta send the crowd home happy.
Sometimes they seem to forgot that. It seems like that's mostly Triple H's influence, trying to be the NWA, trying to be that, which is fine. But look, you have sometimes, I would say, if I was talking to him, if that'd be if I would say, read the room. Look is what popular right now in the media. Mm-hmm. Look at what scenes going on. People want to see. They want to see the hero win, and they continue to grow and win. People look at, say, would Thor be any good if Loki won in one of the movies? No. They had to have Loki take the L and such at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And see how Thor grew and grew and grew. I mean, I like the movies, but he did grow. You see the same thing, how, Batman, the whole DCEU started and how fumbly it started, but now people are seeing the positive stuff here. Aquaman, and I'm hearing some good stuff about Shazam and such. They're saying they really love that. They see the heroes are actually winning. They're actually becoming more positive and happy, and the kids seem to like that stuff too. And I think WWE needs to get on that board, because if you do have a strong heroic figure and such, people, they seem to like that stuff, because good, they like having good triumph over evil instead of just saying evil continues to win over a countless of times till it gets become boring, monotonous, and no one really cares anymore. Champa. But anyway, but yeah, I think final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. You want to get your final thoughts about that? About who's going to main event at the end of the day. Me, I'm actually going to say I think Lesnar and Seth Rollins are going to, because I think Lesnar is still a big deal.
I think it's going to be the women's triple threat, mainly because they're on a really big kick of wanting to do something that's historic, and Ronda Rousey, whatever you think of her outside of the ring or whatever, she's still a name draw. So it's very likely that those ladies will end up main eventing.
I do think they are. The people behind the scenes and creative know who's really been carrying the show in WWE up to this point, and because of that, I think that they'll go look and say, you know what, let's roll the dice and let's put the women on for the main event and see where it goes. So I'm gonna agree with Jeff and say that I think that's how it's gonna end up. Maybe I could end up wrong, but at least it's gonna be something worth tuning in to find out if it's gonna happen.
I mean, if it were me, I would put say the first hour is Lesnar and first hour is Kofi and Bryan. Second hour, say something else. Third hour Lesnar and Seth, and then the final hour the women's triple threat.
So that's the finals at the end of the 8-hour WrestleMania journey. We finally have the triple threat. Mm-hmm. That's just going to be so. And I'm glad I'm not going to review that. I'd say that right now. No, I'm not reviewing WrestleMania. Video review of that. I mean, this year's Royal Rumble is 5 hours long, so I have to do that this weekend. So that's going to be fun. But anyway, like I said, thank you very much. It's been a heck of an experience, and my internet's back up. Everything is fine now. So again, thank you, Rowdy C, for just doing all this stuff, man. You're awesome. And Jeff, thanks so much for sticking with this, because this is just the insanity of this stuff, man. The internet could be so much fun, and so it could just drive you mad.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, you know what? At least it says this. This time, it's not Skype's fault. So put that in the W for you, Skype. which there's a lot more L's in there. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. It's Duke CT here. Peace and love. I will see y'all when I see y'all later.